Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Disco Shaman TV. Today we have a very special guest on, Rollin McCraty. He has done some insane research on the heart, heart-brain coherence, and heart intuition. Rollin, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Oh, great. I'm doing really well and nice to be here.
Awesome. Thanks. Would you like to introduce yourself in any way?
Um, well, I'm director of research at HeartMath, the HeartMath Institute.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're primarily a psychophysiology laboratory that has moved into from just looking at our own personal physiology of how getting the heart and brain in sync and all the many, many benefits of that, but also into what we would call social coherence and global coherence projects. And we're also the new home now for the Global Consciousness Project, which is measuring the field of planetary consciousness. Taking that over now from its 25-year history. We're the new home for that as well. So really looking at from the personal to the social to the global levels and how they all interact with one another.
It's a very exciting stuff that you're doing, and the findings and the data and the research that's coming out. It's mind-boggling. I mean, let's go to our first question. Why the heart, Rollin? Like, what's the personal calling for you to do research on the heart?
Well, let me see if I can give you a short answer to that. Probably the shortest, honest answer I could give you would be personal experience. Ooh. And long history to that. And it was my own kind of heart awakening, I guess one could say, that caused me to sell a multi-million-dollar company I owned at that time for far less than it was actually worth, to quickly transition out of that life and a high-tech company into helping Doc Childrey, the founder of HeartMath, found the organization.
What was the event that triggered this heart opening?
Well, it was actually a series of events, actually streaming back to very early childhood, if I'm really honest. But it was in a meeting that I had with Doc Childrey, where he was on the East Coast at that time. This is when I still owned my company. That heard about him through some mutual friends, and thought we'd get along, and because of my background, and so I went by to meet him and figured I'd spend an hour, and I ended up spending 3 days getting to know him and what he was all about, and so to give a little more context there, my first career was communication engineering. I used to work for Motorola, advanced communication systems and that type of thing. And I was never really satisfied with when I would ask professors at that time when I was a youngster, and well, what is a magnetic field or an electric field? And nobody has really ever answered that question. It would always be the formula that describes how they behave.
Okay.
Right, but not the actual what is it.
What is it?
Well, I don't know, but I can answer that fully myself yet. But it was through that quest that it led me into reading other books. I read a lot of books and getting into some of the other types of literature and radionics and these types of subjects, which seem to have some deeper, at least thoughts around that, which led me into the study of consciousness. So I packed up my stuff and came to California and got a degree in consciousness studies from this was in the late 70s, early 80s, from probably one of the very first accredited degree granting institutions in consciousness studies. And that's what kind of set me on my path of learning to meditate and mindfulness and all these different approaches, which all talk about the heart. I mean, that's first thing in Buddhism and, well, any of the world's great religions. In fact, the most common denominator of all religions, well, I'll say all of the great religions, whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, etc., all have the concept of the heart as the doorway or access point to our larger self, to the spirit, to soul, whatever you want to call it. That's common. And so I certainly learned that and was talked about it, but it was really more in the meditation techniques. It was, the heart's that, but it was more like a metaphor, and learned how to whip in the chakras and all this, and got very good at all that. And so but probably at this point, it had been probably close to at least 10, if not 15 years of meditation. And don't get me wrong, I got a lot of benefit out of that. If I'm also honest, I lived in Southern California at this time, Mohammed, and I could be literally have a great meditation, fly around the universe, and be now by now know be kind of disassociated and jump in my car and be frustrated, upset, angry before I even got to work dealing with the traffic. Right. And that's what I would usually walk into the office with. And then here come all the, issues of running a company. And so it was after when I met Doc, and I also had my bigger true heart opening to understand that the heart's not just a metaphor, that it really was that gateway. And I had a fairly large, my first of many consciousness expanding experiences. And really getting to see the other side of that in a certain way. It's hard to explain experience. That's what motivated me into, this is I started putting into practice in my own life and then into my company. This is before HeartMath existed, and some of the heart tools, technique tools. And I can honestly say I made more personal growth and gains in many levels of my own life in 3 months than I had in many, many years of meditative practices. Because it was really more about it becoming a way of life, and in the moment, regulating my mind, thoughts, and emotions, but from that higher intelligence place that's from within my own self, because that's what we're really saying here at HeartMath. This might be one of your questions, is that we have two hearts. There's the physical heart. Okay. And we've learned a lot about that in 30 years of research that we've done about that. And we now know that the heart has its own intrinsic cardiac nervous system, or the heart brain, as it's called. That has all types of neurons to qualify as a functional brain, et cetera, and how the heart and brain communicate physiologically. The heart sends more information to the brain than the other way around, for example. And
that blew me away.
Yeah, and how the heart, I'll just keep it really simple, the quality of those neural signals traveling up through the nervous system profoundly affect brain function, our performance, our emotional experience. The brain is largely interpreting what signals are being sent to it. And that's probably why we say, I love you with all my heart when we fall in love. I've never known anybody that said, I love you with all of my brain. It's kind of intuitively a good idea, probably, right?
Yeah.
That's one level. So we know a tremendous amount now about the physiology of how the heart and brain communicate. But where I was really wanted to go with this, so I'm really saying we have another kind of heart that we call the energetic heart. It's been called the spiritual heart in a lot of the traditions, religious and philosophical traditions for millennia, probably a long time. So I'm just suggesting that that's actually real, that the energetic heart is a very real thing with real structure. It's just at an energetic dimension or level that you can't put under a microscope. Like we can't put our energetic system under a microscope, or you can't put a thought or a feeling or an intuition and see it, but we can measure the effects they have, the way they correlate with changes in our physiology when we access certain things like that. So what I'm suggesting here, and what our research actually suggests, probably more so than anything else that I'm aware of out there, that not only is the energetic heart real, but it's the bridge, if you will, to what people want. We could, here at HeartMath, we just call it your larger self. You can call it your higher self, your spirit, your soul. Different cultures put different terms to it. But that's really the way I'm suggesting we're actually wired. So to elevate consciousness, that's the eye of the needle you have to go through. So intuition, big intuition, that really underlies true creativity. Out of the box type solutions and thinking, the kind of intuition that the Einsteins of the world talk about. That's what we're talking about here, which is very different than the creativity to figure out how to take things that already exist and put them together in a new way. I mean, that's creative, but it's not the breakthrough kind of creativity. If you understand what I'm saying. But the real big game in this type of intuition is learning to access it, so that we're starting to navigate our own lives through life's challenges with more grace and ease. It's really, I think of it as our inner GPS. We're really making better discernments and life choices. And then that's what raises the vibration of consciousness. And that gets into a whole another realm of creativity. That's probably another time for another topic, but
Yeah, well, I see creativity as levels. There's levels
yeah,
to creativity. There's the very basic level where a kid's just drawing a painting. And then there's like the more higher quantum, the more higher orders of creativity, where it's like, the organization of dimensions and different spaces and different times, and how all of those things come together to create a unique experience, which to me comes back again to the heart. Like,
well,
what's the lim what's the limitations of this? Like, when you look at society right now as Rollin McCraty, right? And you look at how humans have created civilization, do you think this is the full potential of humans? Or
oh,
do you
absolutely.
think, what percentage would you put them on from what they've already created?
That would be really hard to do. Cause that would assume that we know what the future really holds, and as we evolve to our next level of consciousness.
From
You
your
know,
personal experience, though, from you said you've
well,
had personal experience with the
I
highest
have some.
intelligence.
Yeah, I would say that. Well, let me analogy. It's not an analogy. It's something that's, if we think about it, it wasn't that long ago in time, about what, maybe 140 years, something like that, that we actually discovered electricity. I mean, when I say discovered electricity, I mean the understanding of electricity, not just observing it, like with a lodestone back in caveman days that would magnetically draw something to it.
Right.
And it was, I would suggest and there was a lot of that type of creativity involved in that. If we go back to the founders, Faraday, and these types of guys who were the original people that worked out the mathematics and a deeper understandings of that.
Yeah.
That's is what's given rise to the modern world in a very short time. If you think about no electricity to the world we live in now, right? I mean,
Right.
it's that understanding. So there are other quantum type. I don't even want to use that word, because that we usually people throw that word around when they don't really know what they mean. But those kind of jumps are before us, because we don't really understand gravity yet. We're kind of the same boat. We have formulas that describe its behavior in a certain way, like Einstein's did with some breakthrough out of the box understandings there. But if we really understand it, we'd have flying cars and free energy and a lot of things that will come from that next understanding. So, kind of the leap between in consciousness that I'm really talking about, once we understand the higher dimensional levels of what the heart's bridging to at that next level. It's kind of hard to imagine, but if you could time travel back, not even that far, few hundred years, 1,000 years maybe, and take a Bic lighter with you, right, and have a group around you and flick your Bic, they would it would be past what they could even imagine.
This would be a really good advertisement for Bic.
Right. Well, right. But I could use a gazillion examples, right? But you get the drift, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. You'd be a
And
magician.
if you asked that crowd back then what the question you'd asked me, they couldn't begin to imagine the world we live in now. And so I'm saying that the next real jumps in consciousness is that kind of a jump from where we are now. So the modern world we have now is really off in the mind. It's not that next dimension of intelligence of where humanity is headed in the unfoldment and the evolution of consciousness.
Yeah.
You get my
I,
drift, because I hear
yeah.
people.
I feel like when you've had a authentic connection to the heart's intelligence, the realm of possibility opens up, and you go into this space where you start to think anything is possible. And that means that if someone comes to you with an idea of, hey, look, within 10 years of time, we won't even need to travel through gravity or whatever, we would just be doing it through our consciousness alone. You think of it in an open mind way, you're like, you know what, I can see that possible, because I've connected to that intelligence the heart has provided me with. And there is no limitations on that intelligence. There is no boundaries. It's infinite. So in that sense, it's like when you start to imagine and create life from that space, we're not limited by the constraints of the past, where it's like, oh no, that's not possible. We can't do that. Just why would you reinvent the wheel? Of course, you should reinvent the wheel. The wheels are getting old now. We need flying cars. We need the gravity masteration that you're talking about.
Yeah, and we need a different source of energy and the past what we have now. I mean, there's so many needs to really solve the problems. I mean, this could, well, we could go a gazillion ways here with this conversation, but I'm not sure where
Yeah.
you want to go next. So
No, that answers the question. I asked the question, why the heart, and it gave me some good insight on why the heart. I see where you're at. All right. Question two. Hey, if you could go to one point in the future and the past, what would be that point? And what do you think you'd see there? One point in time.
in the future,
Yeah, let's begin with the future.
well, it would be, I don't know how many years it'll be, but probably not that many. A couple generations from now, where I don't like to make predictions, but the shift that everybody's talking about, or at least the awake crowd, the more aware people that feel and know that there's something's different. There's a shift happening. Well, I'm suggesting that shift is the integration of the intelligence of the heart with the mind, or the mind starting to finally surrender to the direction, and then the mind's the big winner. But that's what allows in a certain way to draw in these next levels of creativity and understanding of the way the world really works, and the interconnected wholeness of things. So right now, it's in the evolution of consciousness, we're kind of bound. There really are boundaries here, in the 3D material world we live in, and so I would love to be able to time travel ahead into that, if we're going to do that, to see what society in the world really looks like once that shift has really been stabilized. It's not just going to happen overnight, right? And that's going to take some time to unfold, but it'll happen a lot quicker than the last shift has happened. Say from 2,000 years ago.
Yeah,
from 2D to 3D kind of consciousness.
What would you call that consciousness?
Well, from my perspective and understanding, if we're talking levels of consciousness, we had 2D back when, and then 3D was instated with some facilitation, and that's taken a couple thousand years to unfold. And the shift that's happening now is from 3D to what's called higher fourth.
Higher fourth.
Higher fourth. It's not so what people tend to in New Age call 5D and all that. That's real. That's not where the planet's going, but some of the fifth dimensional energies are being inserted into the planet during the shift time to help make the shift.
Beautiful. This brings us to question 3. In these higher dimensional realities, what's your research and take on other intelligences inhabiting these dimensional spaces, and can we interact with them?
Well, if I'm yes, would be the simple answer. But I'm also suggesting that you, me, everybody has an aspect of our undivided wholeness that already is in those higher dimensional spaces.
Okay. So we are technically there already.
Well, we're there, but we're here in this level of density.
Yeah.
Not aware of who we really are and what's really going on in those higher dimensions. And that's really what waking up, if I can use that language, is all about. And that has to do with aligning with that. Remember, I said the energetic heart is that bridge to that part of our undivided wholeness of ourself. So it's opening that channel, which is tough. The mind has been the dominant consciousness on the planet for a long time, and it kicks and screams. It doesn't want to lose customers, right? It's you think of it as an attractor. So that there's a process for that, but and there's a kind of a built-in safety here, because that higher vibration and consciousness where we're really going to, from my perspective anyway, let's not have to believe me about this, but what if it is this way? Is that it is really a higher vibration of consciousness where we're starting to align more from the other dimension of who we are, And that is what enables true co-creativity, kind of in this holographic reality that we're learning in. I mean, a lot of people like to talk about how we're creating our reality. Yes, we are, but no, we're not, because at the mind level, which includes the judgments and the separations and all of the stuff that goes along with that, can't make it through that eye of the needle. Because if you took that into that next, think of it this way, if you were really able to vibrate at that other level of consciousness where you are kind of co-creating reality, kind of interacting with programming the hologram, if you want, that might be a way that you could think of this. If you were taking, your judgments and negative down slant projections and all this with you, that feedback loop would fry people so quickly. It's a self-harm. We would fry if we were able to take the current global consciousness, average consciousness. It just couldn't.
Could it be that those things are being fed back into the hologram, but we're just not aware of it?
Well, they absolutely are. I'm saying they absolutely are. We live in a giant biofeedback system from my perspective.
Yeah. See, that's what I found so interesting about researching shamanistic cultures and how shamans do their healing work is they have a series of guides as they're going into ceremony. And these guides, they believe, are spiritual forces, energetical forces. And they take different characteristics. Some can be, certain types of beings. And all of them have skills that help the shaman go into a state of trance and do the healing process. So when you interview a shaman, the shaman says, it's not me who's doing the healing. I'm just a conduit. What's happening is I'm going into trance, and whatever needs to be channeled through my body is doing the healing.
Yeah. Well, I sometimes would take issue with that, but
what's your issue with that?
Well, to really give it, it's not that that's not real and that there aren't guides, but for a lot of the healings like you're talking about and where we help facilitate somebody, it actually is us. It's our own higher vibrational self that like I'll sometimes joke, people ask me, do you ever heard of channeling? Well, yeah, of course I've heard of channeling. I channel all the time. I'm just channeling myself.
Okay.
If you get my drift from that higher dimensional perspective.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Probably more often that way than it is some external entity, coming in and doing it for them.
Yeah. How I see it is it's not necessarily an external entity. It's you in a higher form, but that form is taking the form of a specific character, a specific psychic energy, a specific style that you can tap into. So it's not like, okay, there's a lion man out there that he's going to come and help you. You are the lion man. There's no, your consciousness is so expansive. It is so total that within the greater field of consciousness, you incorporate all beings that ever existed, and you can tap into them.
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody has their own belief. I'm just saying, from my perspective, that's not wrong, but I'm just saying we actually have our own real larger self, and at that level, that dimension that it's vibrating in or exists in, and I'm saying it's real with real structure. That is so wide. I mean, and so has so many capabilities that. So I mean, you're kind of right in a way, but I'm also saying that really is us at our higher vibrational state. And at that level, it's not like there's just one big oneness. I'm saying we each have our own individual higher vibrational self, right, or larger self. Now, at that dimension of existence, faster than speed of light, communication with other, all that's really possible. It's casual, right? It's up there. That's at that dimension. It's no big deal, right? It's anyway. So. We're probably getting into topics I normally would never talk about publicly here. So
no, this is great. This is what I like to talk about, because it's coming from your personal experience and your research, and it's valuable, right? So let's go back into traveling beyond the speed of light. Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Well, not really, because I'm getting way outside of the scientific paradigms of our planet and our
No, well, this is what science is about, though.
Yeah.
Science is about being able to talk about things and then we disprove them. If there's people out there who would like to disprove it, they can disprove it. But we
Yeah.
should
So
at least
here's how I
conversate.
think. My
Okay.
I'll just call it my intuitions about this is that there are different levels of density, and that each level of density has its own speed. So
Okay.
if we bring that down to Earth, you've got you can throw pebbles in a pond, and there's a speed at which the waves travel through it based on the density of the water.
Yeah.
We're talking now, so we're vibrating air molecules. That's a less dense medium, so those waves travel much faster, right? Through the medium of air, right? So it's the density of the medium that controls the speed by which the waves travel through it.
Okay.
So supposedly there is what's typically called an ether, right? That we supposedly proved doesn't exist. Well, a lot of great minds and scientists, I'll put myself with them, not that I'm saying I'm a great scientist,
Of course you are.
think that's nonsense, that there has to be a medium that light travels through. So I'm just suggesting that medium is what controls the speed of light. And
Okay.
within different mediums, you can actually have different densities, right? Like water can have different densities, literally.
Mm.
So maybe what if the speed of light isn't a constant even in that medium? But then what if there's a whole other levels of density that we don't yet know about or understand that has way faster communication than what the density of what we know of light traveling through?
Mm. That's wild. Brings us to the final question. And I think, Roland, for this question, you're going to need to channel in the highest form of Roland possible. Okay.
We'll see what happens.
Okay, let's go. All right. So you have the human being here, the highest embodied form of heart intelligence in this human being. And then you have artificial intelligence, the highest form of artificial intelligence. These two are going to go head to head. Who wins?
Oh,
Not
clearly
an,
the awakened being wins.
the awakened being.
Yeah.
Is that the human?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Well, because there's a couple ways we could look at your question if we wanted to take it a couple levels, but what I was saying earlier in terms of, well, if you believe in, which 90% of the world's population does, by the way, in surveys, that there is some type of a higher organizing intelligence. Now, whether that's people want to call it God or creative intelligence or whatever their belief system is, 90% of the world's population does believe that. That the idea that a lightning bolt hit a pond, millions of years ago, and magically, against all the laws of thermodynamics, we randomly evolved into human beings. Kind of absurd, in my way of thinking that
Right.
happened that way.
Right.
It's totally absurd to me. That there had, so that if there's a creative intelligence, which I think of as love, right? I don't. Love is the creative intelligence that created the universe. That's a pretty darn smart level of intelligence, way past what human minds can really conceive of.
Mm.
And that, so Earth and all the other systems, I mean, how arrogant are we to think we're the only living system with all of the trillions of suns and planets and, even on Earth, all the different kind of life forms that have emerged. So there is there is an evolutionary process, but I'm suggesting it's also an evolutionary process of consciousness that we're waking up,
Right.
that we actually go through many lifetimes to learn these experiences and wake up in different systems and so on.
So what you
That type of an intelligence is what created artificial intelligence to begin with here in the kind of the 3D world. And that AI is just never going to have the power, or it's just not something that's going to interact with the cosmic hologram in the same way to co-create, kind of life and reality. I mean, it's pretty cool stuff. I use AI. I use it to help in different research projects and things. It's really cool, as long as we don't get things confused. And then we could say that there's another way one can look at this. I don't necessarily totally agree with this, that from another dimension of intelligence, biological units were created, energy units, that our consciousness, who we really are, then inhabits and allows us to walk around and wake up within this level of density. So I wouldn't call that AI, but I suppose you can make an argument for thinking. In some context, that would be true.
So essentially, we are connected, or we are that love that created the universe.
And we're an aspect of it. We're an gating of it.
So you're pretty much like a demigod, like a god in a way.
Yeah, I just don't like those terms. I would say more of a creative intelligence, than the idea of a white-haired guy with a long beard hanging out up there, controlling, everything that happens in my life and everybody else's life. To me, I just cannot resonate with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so does that mean that you wouldn't fuse your mind with AI ever?
No, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't fuse my mind. It's because to me, what I'm saying is it's really about that. I want my heart to fuse with my mind, which is the bridge to the next level of real intelligence.
What do you see when you see what do you see when you see like this whole new movement of people getting, especially the younger generation, getting very excited to be able to fuse their mind to AI just because of the little novel processes of information processing that it can do?
Yeah,
like
I don't even know what that really looks like when we say fuse your mind with AI. I mean, you're talking about putting chips in people's heads.
So Elon Musk created a chip called the Neuralink. He has the ability to pretty much fuse it with the internet.
Yeah, let's wait and see on that, because I mean there are certainly, I mean, in the research world that I'm aware of, and there might be stuff that I'm not currently aware of, different types of probes and things where you can change your thoughts to control to interact with machines. It's been developed for people in wheelchair, paraplegics and things like that.
Yeah,
that's a very different thing, if that's what you're talking about. That AI trying to think for me, or so anyway.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm not going to be running out to have somebody stick chips in my head. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
I think I'm on a different path. I'm about finding out who I really am at my higher vibrational self and bringing that down, waking up in this level of density to that level of consciousness, and truly becoming, a co-creator in my own reality, in my own unfoldment.
And I mean, your research has really been pointing to the fact and solidifying the fact, why would you want to do that when our bodies are capable of self-healing, regeneration, of these heightened intuition moments? So anyone who's interested in really tapping into the next level of their consciousness and understanding themselves and co-creating their life, look into Dr. Rollin McCraty's information. I'll leave all the links below on the bottom. He's been a fundamental force in influencing the thoughts and understandings of how the heart is transforming or going to transform our reality. So Rollin, thank you very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time. Any sort of words or how people can connect with you, or things that you want to talk about or share about your work?
Easy to connect with us, heartmath.org.
Yep.
Website. We need to really redo our website. It's pretty old, but in the process of doing that. But there's things like research library with hundreds of papers that you can download for free. And I would recommend people read the book Heart Intelligence, which I'm one of the co-authors on. That's a great first step into the universe of heart math, really understanding what it's really about.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Rollin. Really appreciate you.
Well, likewise.